I got it! When I first heard about Dave being trapped in a maze...
1, 2, 3, 4!
I built a labyrinth. Can you believe it?
Dave is trapped in a cardboard maze in his living room and he can't get out.
Welcome to Dave Made a Minute, the podcast where a whole bunch of us are exploring the film Dave Made a Maze 1 minute at a time. The twist. Many of the participants have never seen the film. Some don't even know what film they're sampling. They get their minutes and they tackle them as they see fit. Here's your host from the Groundhog Day Project and Michael Myers Minute, Robert Black.
Minute 22, Annie is overwhelmed, but Harry wants an interview. To tackle Minute 22, we have Sean German and Dave Pallas from Groundhog Minute, along with James Costa of Whole Wheat Costa.
You come home, there's a giant maze in your living room. You're like, what the? There's a giant maze in my living room. I've heard of people rearranging their furniture, but this is wackadoodle crazy. Give me a sense of that.
This doesn't make any sense.
The problem? The promise to my segment. My solution's the problem.
It's like a fucking cocktail party in here.
I get a few words from you before you go.
And welcome back to Dave Made a Maze Minute. that's I guess what we're going to go with, or the Minute or podcast, whatever. The Robert Black Mystery Maze Project.
There's no continuity to the intros or outros. So,
I don't know who you were just listening to and who you're going to listen to after us.
Yeah,
but I hope you have fun. I really do.
I think the whole theme is mystery.
Yeah, and I'm good with it. And I'm good at that.
My whole life, people thought I was a mystery. Boy, girl, alien, dog. No one ever knew.
Quite the enigma. So yeah, we have Sean and Jay back here. I'm Dave.
Hi, welcome back, listeners.
So we're gonna walk you through minute 22 here. So we start off spooky cardboard eyes. I'm just gonna say that right out front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Our hobo chilling with some coffee. We got Harry's camera crew is setting up, and Annie is creeped out by the alive origami she has.
Yeah, so the maze is kind of coming alive itself, and we talked about it a little bit earlier in a previous minute. I'm sure other folks maybe have talked about how the maze is a character unto itself as much as these people are, and also we previously talked about the kind of the found footage genre and how we were glad like they weren't doing that. That this for the most part was a traditionally filmed film, but we do get a little bit of the view through the documentary crew, what they're seeing, what they're recording as well a little bit later. But I get ahead of myself because I really want to start off. You mentioned, Dave, the maze eyes at the very beginning of this minute.
I believe it's Olmec's brother, Tom.
Yeah,
right. So, it was creepy. So.
Yeah, it made me think of the Gnome King from Return to Oz, and there's some scenes, there's some animated scenes in that film. Well, shout out to Return to Oz Minute, but there's
the Michael Jackson one.
No.
That's the Wiz. That's the Wiz.
Yeah, that's the Wiz. No, not the Wiz. I'm talking about Return to Oz with Fairuza Balk playing Dorothy Gale as sort of somehow she's younger than the Dorothy in the original Wizard of Oz, but yet it's a sequel, but we can't explain all that. But in that film, there's a Gnome King who's kind of, I guess, made out of, at some point he looks like he's a person, but at other points he's like made out of rock. He's kind of part of this mountain. And there's animated sequences where it looks very similar to the cardboard, rock versus paper. I guess we just need scissors to complete the triad there. But yeah, so this definitely reminded me of some of the animated sequences of the Gnome King from Return to Oz. And I thought that was interesting because in that film, the Gnome King is played by Nicol Williamson, who, in addition to Return to Oz, may be best known to our listeners as Merlin in the 1981 film Excalibur. Interestingly, though, also in 1981, Nicol Williamson was in Venom with Michael Gough, who played Alfred Pennyworth in Batman and Batman Returns, those Batman films. But Nicol Williamson was also in the Will Be conspiracy with Michael Caine, who would later play Alfred in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. So you can see this is all connected.
I knew it.
Batman.
As soon as you started, I knew it. Now John and Niall, they're like really excited all of a sudden.
Yes. I want to come over your house. I want to see the map with the string doing all this because Dave, I've known Dave 15, 16 years probably, and he knows how much I love B actors, C actors, and you're pulling this shit out of your ass, and I'm like, oh my God! Like even I'm impressed. So here's my non-auditory clap to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. So this maze, it's all connected to Batman in several degrees by way of Return to Oz. So yeah. So we see now the personification. If we felt metaphorically the maze was a character, that just literally puts a face on it there.
It's a living character with weird eyes. So
yeah, and speaking of weird eyes, we then flash back to the apartment world.
This is, every scene with the hobo is great.
Yeah. Now is this is this like one of the coffee cups from Greg and Bryn?
No, this is not one of theirs. They had those cafe ones where it's like super wide.
Mm-hmm.
That's a more respectable. It's in your kitchen drawer coffee mug. So
this is like a human mug that someone actually has in their kitchen.
Yeah. So like this is, and actually I kind of think it's respectable. Like I thought he was going to like just make a mess, but no. I was actually waiting for him to shower, but he's really just kind of sitting there, just sipping coffee. And...
He's not like he's not selling off the furniture. He's not having like friends over, a big hobo party. He's a pretty good house sitter. Yeah, he's just kind of keeping things in control.
He wants to shower, but he wants to have his morning coffee, or his afternoon coffee or whatever, then take a shower, and then the Newman neighbor comes in the door.
I want to mention that I don't know if we got a good chance earlier in the film. Maybe they weren't there, but look at how many origami birds there are on the floor of the of the apartment.
Yeah, going back to the minutes we had 12 and 15, we were looking at the people, their heads. We didn't really see the floor. So is this part of the maze because it's paper related?
Yeah,
and it's kind of infesting. Or, we don't know quite where all that came at. Yeah, we see all the origami. And we also see that the enter sign, the light, has changed from green to red. I mean, it's purple, but it's, a reddish type color.
And also, I don't know, the samurai swords, that feels like that's like the classic, I bought them on eBay because I thought they were cool, and now they sit on my nightstand collecting dust.
That's definitely one of those things where, like the box arrives and you're like, what did I order this? What? And then you open it and you're like, oh yeah, that night, we opened that bottle of scotch and
there's 3 empty bottles of Popov on the corner.
Right. Yeah.
And there's only 2 of you. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. This is something that because it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the decor. We don't see other weapons and we don't see other Far East Asian influence kind of thing. So that's definitely like a late night drinking kind of blackout eBay purchase right there.
Or I have an alternate theory about this. Annie seems level-headed. We see her going, you know what? I'm going to pack up. I'm going to pack my lunch. I'm going to pack my I'm going to pack a box cutter, some glow sticks. Like she seems prepared. She's a Boy Scout. Like she's going in there with her shit, right? Mm-hmm. And even though we don't meet Dave, we can see Dave's kind of childish. He buys samurai swords.
Yeah.
He built a box fort on the ground. And
gee,
like,
what makes you think he's childish?
Yeah. And she tells him, no, don't buy the samurai swords. And he's like, you know what? I'm buying the samurai swords.
Mm-hmm.
With her money, obviously, because if you build a fort that big out of cardboard, you don't have a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could almost probably look around the room and figure out who bought what. Like the antique, the film reels, and the antique phone. Yeah, that's probably a Dave thing. Like the lamp and the plant in the corner, probably Anne.
Mm-hmm.
Like
if it's practical and has a purpose, that was probably Anne. If it's kind of funky, that was probably Dave.
Yeah.
Though I wonder. So we know Annie had the forethought to bring a box cutter with her. is it Chekhov's samurai sword? Are we going to see a larger blade come into play later as well? Something to keep an eye on. I mean, not this minute, but just kind of for the listener to look forward to.
I'm telling you, I haven't seen the movie, but I feel like the hobo is going to drop a samurai sword down one of the tunnels or
Oh
one
my
of the
God.
chimneys.
Oh yeah,
That'd be so cool.
yeah. Send it down one of the chimney exhaust pipe, cardboard tube, paper towel tube things.
I honestly would love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Leonard then decides, I'll go in I'm gonna go in the maze too, like for whatever reason. The hobo the look he gives is like, all right, whatever. Like I was like just like 8-10 people in there now. Like sure, why not? Add another.
Well, you got to think this is the first time in probably a while that he sat in a room that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to go anywhere.
But let me ask you guys a question, because this. It seems to us that this is messing with time and size.
Mm-hmm.
Say you have a little gold nugget and you drop it down a chimney, and they put this gold nugget in their backpack. Does it grow as they come out of the maze?
Oof, yeah. I don't know.
See,
that's a good question.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I'm always curious if it changes its size respective to where their POV is. Like you drop it down a chimney, it's only the size of a quarter. That it will then you'll hear something fall from so far high, bing, 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 and then a quarter-sized nugget will then fall on the ground. Like, and then you'll take it outside, and it will also be and then the nugget will also be respectable to your size they were. Like that's how I think it is.
Yeah, I feel like there's some conservation, so it would when you drop it into the labyrinth or the maze, it would shrink because the maze looks bigger. But then when you take it out, it would. Like, whatever happens when you go in, that just gets undone when you come out. So you're going to end up with the same amount of gold you started with.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw it out there.
I know, it's worth a thought. Probably worth experimenting to see if there's some kind of loophole you can, utilize the maze powers for.
Get rich quick, baby.
There you go.
It's all any American wants.
There you go. Well, though, I mean, if they're in a large city, just the rental space. Like this guy has one, this one apartment. I guess Anne's the roommate that Dave and Anne live in this one apartment, but now they can sublet it to many other people.
Yeah,
there you go. Just become landlords and just rent out the maze.
Here, tie the rope on your waist and tie it to the radiator, and then when you want to leave in the morning, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, and Leonard's another one. We saw it in minute 15. Like, they're just, no one's tying the rope around the waist or leaving a breadcrumbs or whatever. They're just diving right into that maze.
I would have definitely left breadcrumbs. But on the other hand, Annie is in there with a camera crew. So if they're recording everything, they could just watch the film to see where they make their turns.
Right,
so,
yeah. I mean, assume at this point it's video. It's not actual film that has to be developed, so they can just play it back whenever they need to.
So, since we cut to we're now inside the maze with Anne, no one else is freaking out about the alive origami. Like I said, we have Harry and his crew. They're just so infatuated with filming her, talk about the maze. When she's like, "Oh my god, like this origami is alive right now." Like, Harry completely ignores it, and it just flies away. It just goes whoop.
Well, maybe it's the fact they were standing outside a 4-foot-tall maze, and then they went into it. It's a cavernous maze, and at that point, and then they've already seen a face with eyes that move, where you go, "Well, nothing's weird to me now."
Yeah, it's like it's almost like it's like Annihilation. They went in with Natalie Portman and the ladies. Mm-hmm. The scientists, and they're like, everything we know about science and math and everything, nothing's working. It's playing off of its own rules.
Right. It's like eating a pizza, like the best pizza you've ever had. Mm-hmm. After 4 or 5 of those pizzas, you just go, well, it's pizza. It's like, well, I'm going to move on. So after 4 or 5 weird things happen, you probably just go, that's it. Yeah, I expect weird shit to happen the rest of the day.
Yeah, but I do. Yeah, I like the characters like Anne that like recognize. Oh, like this is something weird, something different's happening, something not normal here. I mean, we're going to move on. We're not going to complete freak out because that doesn't advance the plot. But at least recognize, at least have the look on her face like, this is not normal. This is not something we see every day. I feel like she's more relatable than some of these other characters. And there is a certain... I mean, I think these other characters say something like the camera crew, the director, Harry, he seems to be in charge, of this crew, and they're his crew. Like, of course, he's just focused on, he's like Rita in Groundhog Day. He just wants to know where to put the camera. He just wants the shot. So he's just not gonna, his focus is very narrow. So he doesn't notice these other things because he's working on a documentary. He wants the talking head. He wants, all right, Anne, you sit here and what are you thinking and what are you feeling? And, you give your reaction to all these things that are happening around you. He's not noticing those things directly. He's getting at them indirectly through the interviews that he's going to do for his documentary kind of thing. Yeah, he's the Rita.
I'm kind of cheesed off at Harry because this is also slowing down their progress. Dave's lost in this maze, and he wants to document it, but he wants to sit them down and get the light right. He wants to talk about, do we have a balance? Can we get the light on them? Can we? What does he say? He used the phrases, she keys left. Do you have a balance? Phil on the other side of her face. So he's trying to make this perfect documentary about it, and I think Anne is just overwhelmed with the magic of this maze, and the fact that her friend Dave is trapped in here, and she's like, we gotta get to him. If he's dead, then this will be the worst thing ever to record. Yeah, so there's and going back to what we've said in previous minutes, and what I'm sure other hosts have noted as well, as a commentary on the filmmaking process, that even as a documentary, there's something artificial. That what is happening doesn't match what would happen if the camera crew wasn't there. So he's not just naturally filming as they run through. And even if he was, they'd probably stop and wait for the camera crew to catch up and that kind of thing. Or the camera would go ahead to get, so it's, you get a shot of them running towards the camera in addition to away. And, if you're actually going through a labyrinth trying to find your lost friend, you're not going to stop to have this heart-to-heart talk and delve into your feelings and your reactions and everything. No, you're just going to go forward. Yeah. So the very act, it's a little bit of the quantum effect that observing makes the very act of making a documentary means what's happening is not natural. Yeah. Yeah. And it's if he doesn't like the light here, well, you decide to film underneath this, I love that shot of the fan that's clearly, it gives a real verticality to the scene. It makes this room even feel bigger. That somewhere above them is some kind of ventilation fan slowly spinning, and you get that shadow cast. Yeah, that was definitely very well thought out on several levels. It shows some thought that I would assume this is something that Dave built into the maze, so he kind of knew this was going to be big and anticipated, well, you got to think about airflow. You don't want to suffocate while you're in there, so you need something to keep the air moving, just from that perspective. And then from the filmmaker perspective, that, it really has a great effect on this scene, that it's weird. I felt claustrophobic in a large space at the same time. And I know that's paradoxical or contradictory. I feel we're inside the cardboard, we're inside the maze, but having just the shadow of the swirling fan kind of gives height that we don't see, but we can feel it. It gives height to this space and emphasizes the idea that this is much larger on the inside than what we've been seeing outside. Yeah, honestly, I am watching these minutes when we were inside. I'm creeped out. I'm genuinely creeped out. I definitely feel what Anne's feeling right now. Her eyes are just wide to everything. Whereas I feel Gordon, right? Is it Gordon? Gordon is kind of like going along with the flow. Like, he's going to interview. Oh no, they want to talk with Anne. Oh, okay, I'll just stand over here.
Yeah.
Like, Gordon's not saying anything. Like, we really should kind of wrap this up and go to, because she's she's clearly almost shocked to silence. She's stunned silence. But Gordon seems level-headed enough that he should be like, guys, can we just kind of like record while we walk and talk and try to like figure out where Dave is? Because that was the first thing Anne said going into the maze. She was yelling for Dave, whereas everyone else was, amazed, and they're obviously the others ran off. That we haven't seen them since. At least we haven't. I don't know about them. The listener may have heard them in another minute, but for us, we're stuck in the maze. We haven't seen where Greg and Bryn went, where those Finnish tourists.
The tourists. Yeah, we've gotten kind of the group is set up. Just a quick aside. I don't know if you guys have anything on this. Like, what the Gordon shirt, you mentioned Gordon. Speaking of Gordon, his t-shirt, is that a video game character? Do you recognize what's going on there, or is that just some random thing?
Yeah, I don't recognize the video. Jay, do you recognize? Is it any kind of band shirt or anything?
What second?
Probably the best view is at second 38. You see Gordon standing next to Anne. You get it looks like a 16-bit or 8-bit video game character, like carrying a sword and running. But I don't know if it's is this something they just made for the movie, or is that like an established character?
I think it's something they made for the movie. It's definitely. Okay. Let me zoom in here.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't recognize it any video game character. It looks like he's got cowboy boots on. Yeah. And he's holding either it doesn't look like a sword so much as it looks like a loaf of bread or a corn on the cob, and like a carrot in his other hand. Like, if that's what it looks like to me.
There's and maybe it's kind of part of a metaphor for this movie as a whole, where it's like he's wearing cowboy boots, but the rest of his outfit looks futuristic or like a space, like almost like a Star Trek or Buck Rogers type outfit.
Yeah.
But then, like, he's carrying, I don't know. Like, it looks like a long loaf of Italian bread or a sword or gauntlets. Like, he's Western, but space, but medieval. There's like a lot going on there.
My best guess would be it's an obscure literary reference.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's my best
Can't
guess.
go wrong with obscure literary reference.
Because you like watching these minutes, like you see these like obscure things, and everything seems very detail oriented, So there's a purpose, and I'm not a guy who finds a purpose in everything, but I feel a lot of this stuff there's a purpose in all of it. Like the director, like whether he wanted to put it in there or it's like accidental, like pays an homage to something. But I feel like everything's thought out. Like you guys said, like you see the maturity and like the wall color and the plant and everything, and then you see the immaturity of having samurai swords on the wall. So it is very like mature and immature, like living in the same apartment.
I'm actually kind of curious watching this moment. What this director's feeling is on a lot of cheaper action movie productions, like a lot of the ones you watch on Mystery Science Theater and Riff Tracks, where they don't have a set. They don't have any budget for a set, so it's usually filmed in a warehouse. And to make the architecture, they'll use like cardboard boxes, where like it's people just walking down hallways of cardboard boxes, and then they'll punch each other or blast through them. And it's like, dude, it's just empty cardboard boxes. Like, I'm the audience member. I can see it. Your characters are reacting to it as if it's a cardboard box. Like, there's no, what I'm saying? Like, it looks like cheesy. And then here he is. He has this whole thing, this maze made up of cardboard boxes, but it looks so well made. He could have cheaped out and just had cardboard boxes as his walls. But it's not. It looks like really good architecture of having, texture and different sizes of cardboard boxes and different colors of them.
Yeah. Kind of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
Do you think, like, just going back to minute 15 and minute 12?
12.
Do you think that craft services was the pizza that they ordered in the beginning of the film? Like, do you think that's the craft? Look, guys, it is a low budget film. I can't be paying you, but we'll work craft services into the film.
I agree.
In the budget.
But once again, I wouldn't have ordered the works pizza. I would have we're getting cheese pizza, and that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah, I got $13.95. I don't have $15.95. Come on, guys.
Yeah,
right.
Like, there's a deal. It's $9 a pie if I get 3 cheese. So I think that's our best chance.
Sorry. What were you saying, Sean?
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, yeah. So that just the point about how it's like obviously they put a lot of work into giving it a certain look. Makes me think of South Park, where the animation style has a certain primitive nature, and it kind of it's supposed to look like it's just things cut out of colored paper.
Yeah.
But if you've ever, if you looked at any of the behind the scenes or how it's made, that's like breaking cutting edge technology, all the latest computer animation, just like 21st century technology that all goes into making it look so primitive.
Yeah.
And that kind of reminds me of what's going here, that obviously a lot of care and work and time and effort went into making it look like just a bunch of cardboard. But when you look like, it's obviously not just a bunch of cardboard. It isn't, it isn't cheap or sloppy. That obviously the attention to detail was there to give it a certain kind of look.
Right. They didn't just post. They didn't open up boxes and post it there. They have, they have square support beams. They have,
There's buttresses.
Like we said, a fan. Yeah, and they walk through it, and they give it chimneys, and the chimneys aren't just pipes. They have the flanges on top, so when the air comes out, so they put a lot of effort into making this film.
Yeah, and the folks will discuss it other minutes. Oh, we don't get too much of the maze. It's this minute. It's mostly. They're sitting in this one, I don't know, room or cavern or opening with Anne and Gordon interacting with the film crew. But I think I'll use that point to jump off on kind of my thoughts on what's going on and what's this movie about in a larger message. And I think the maze is a metaphor for any project that you take on, kind of any large project that you dedicate yourself to. It can become like a labyrinth, and it can kind of take on a life of its own, and things grow. And the larger the project, it's going to affect your friends and family, the people around you that are supporting you as you're going on this quest to achieve whatever the end is, whatever you're trying to build. And a lot of times you don't always end up where, it doesn't end the way you thought it would, and there's twists and turns along the way, and, it can become, you can kind of get lost in your work, lost in a project. And I think we got a little bit of that earlier on, and I'll admit I cheated a bit. I have seen the movie.
You son of a bitch!
Dave, let's go, Sean.
No, I did.
We'll put him in the maze.
So this is, I guessed, I kind of pieced together some of the hints that Robert Black put out there, and I was able to figure out what the movie was. Now, for our previous minutes, I watched just the minutes that we were assigned, and I took my notes, and that's kind of when we talked previously. I was just going off of what I had noted without seeing the whole movie. But having seen the whole thing now, I kind of see, it kind of made me think of, a project like doing a podcast and covering a movie 1 minute at a time, where you have your plans and your preparation and what you think is going to happen, and you kind of hope you'll make it to the end, that you can say, you have that achievement. I started it and I finished it and everything, but it can kind of take a life of its own, and you can get lost in it. You can drag people in there with you, and it kind of can follow this kind of path of what we're seeing with Dave and his friends and what's going on with the maze here. Because that's where I thought, that's what the message, kind of the movie that I was getting from the movie, and kind of what the maze started meaning to me.
I like that, because it's especially now with, I feel like there's a lot more like with projects like Kickstarter and Patreon, how it's no longer just the creator and the audience. Now it's becoming more of a collaborative effort, and I think that does muddle some things. Whereas some projects, they could be a collaborative effort, whether it be maybe something with a social reasoning or a political reason where you want the people to focus on. Sometimes, when it's a form of media, like it's a movie, it's a song, it's a game, Sometimes I do get nervous when they're like, "Oh, we want people's effort." It's like, well, I understand you want people's input, but there's a point where it's like, no, dude, this is your project, and I'd rather just you make the project, you sell me on the project, and I give you the money when the project's over, rather than it be this whole, give me, give us some money now, and you can get in early, and then you can help the development team of making the project. I don't like that, because I think you find yourself in a maze like that, where now you have a million people who it's free for them to now voice their opinions to you and to the creator. It's like, oh, I gotta get this all done, or else the game or the movie or the thing is not gonna, or this artwork's not gonna be perfect now, and then it turns into appeasing a lot of people rather than make it to appease yourself and that you feel is comfortable giving to people. I hope I'm getting that point across. Where it's a lot of times, when I just see stuff, it's like, oh, it's early access, and if you pay now, you can get to help, developers know what you think about it. It's like, no, just make the project.
Yeah, to add on to what Dave's saying, if you have a passion project, don't get any input for yourself, because it's not going to turn out into something you want it to turn out. It's going to turn out to everybody. This isn't Snakes on a Plane. This is a passion project,
Yeah, I love that point. You're so true with things like Kickstarter and social media, that boundary between the creator and the audience gets blurred sometimes. And it's old news to talk about how a committee can kind of kill creativity, or we've seen movies that it's just like, okay, this was obviously created by committee. This was created in a boardroom. There's, they just sucked all the artistic joy out of it. But the same thing can happen even if your audience is their fans, they're involved because they're passionate, because they like what you're doing or they like the artist. So they're coming from a different angle than an executive that's just making the decisions out, for budgetary reasons, and they're just thinking about money. But the effect can be the same. It's just, too many cooks in the kitchen can water everything down. And you got to keep that focus of, agreeing with both of you. If it's a passion project, keep it on your passion and kind of keep it to your vision and not let too many people in.
And it's like, sorry, go Jay.
To play devil's advocate on that, the only real good thing that can come out of that, where you actually get people's opinions and you see what they want, is the word of mouth. Is people go, look, I had a hand in creating this, and they're bringing 10 people to the theater, and then that person's bringing 10 people. Hey, my buddy Dave, he helped make this movie, So it's like it gets people to see a movie. It just doesn't get people to see your movie.
Yeah. And it's like, if you want to make something, then after you make it, it's like you got to know your budget and know your scope. You put that project out there. Then you could do the post-mortem, the criticism of what people liked and what people didn't like. And be like, all right, well, I want to advance this project. You make yourself a sequel, or you make yourself a spiritual sequel to that, whatever it may be, a movie, a song, an album, a game. And then you can now take that criticism, both good and bad, and then you can make a project worth worth expanding upon. Whereas you're trying to make the game. I keep saying get back to game because I do a lot of kickstarting of board games. I do a lot of looking at early access board games and video games and stuff. So it's like that's like my go-to example. But it's like they try to make the game and its sequel within the one project, and they lose scope. And then you'll hear the horror story where it's just like their funding got so out of whack. They hired 100 people. They couldn't pay 100 people to make something for 5 years. It's impossible. And then stuff falls apart.
That's what they did. That's what I feel like they did with the movie. Not to get too off topic. The Predator. When they signed on to do the Predator, they go, all right, we need Predator 2 and 3, and you're like, Shane Black doesn't want to make all that. Just make a good movie, not like a And you're like, shit. I got a shitty movie because they're like, all right, we need to set this up for Predator 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's oh man, it's a shame because that first Predator film is so good. It like one half of you is like, it's a perfect movie. It doesn't need a sequel. The other half is like, oh, I want more. and you have those two conflict, and then the person that wants a sequel adds in a bunch of malarkey, and then they get the committee, and then it's like, well, it should be more of a comedy, but we should also have this in, and have more characters, make more jokes.
Well, that being said, I really hope all the listeners tune into Dave Made a Maze podcast, the Minute by the Minute, because that's what we're supposed to be talking about. Yeah. But I hope everyone listens and enjoys every single minute, especially this minute. And I hope everybody enjoyed the movie for this guy who obviously made a project that was unheard of and bizarre from what the 3 minutes I've watched.
But I'm very intrigued, and that's the good part. Is I'm in no way am I turned off to be like, ugh, this was a slug. I'm actually like going like, I think I could just rent and watch this tonight. Like just now that I know.
I'm very interested.
Yeah. I really want to see where Anne and Gordon and the crew go, and I want to know what's going to happen to the Finnish tourists.
Yeah. I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, because already, we've talked about how this movie and the filmmaker is obviously a fan of other films and other things that we're feeling kind of the influence here, and that horror movie trope of the group has been separated.
Yeah,
we're not seeing Greg and Bryn, we're not seeing the Finnish tourists like. Ooh, so what's going on the other parts of this maze? And it doesn't seem like they're getting any closer. This group and Anne and Gordon, like they're not any closer to finding Dave at this point. There's still lots of movie left to go.
And the camera crew doesn't care about finding Dave. They're there to make a movie.
Right.
Obviously by slowing them down and having them sit down and have Annie hold a sign that says Annie. So
I'm very curious what that camera crew could represent, some kind of B-movie documentary that's trying to record the project as the project's being recorded. And it's just like how unnecessary it feels because, we're in the present making this thing. And they put the camera on and she's like, we're in the maze, we're trying to find Dave. And then they're like, oh, hold on, we'll get to that. It's like, well, what else are we supposed to be talking about, man? Like we're trying to get Dave. About? Oh, boy. I think we're clearly at the end of our minutes. Is there any other last thoughts we have here?
No. Nope.
Yeah, just that this is a wacky, weird, intense at certain times movie. Mm-hmm. And this has been a very strange experience to do kind of 3 minutes of something we haven't seen or we started out not having seen. And, I hope the other hosts are enjoying it as much as we have. Yeah. And I hope the listeners are enjoying it as well.
Yeah. Tune in to the next hosts, and I'm going to have to take a listen. I'm going to watch this. I'm going to check this out. So, So Jay, for the listeners, let them know where they can find you.
I'll be posting again more podcasts from Whole Wheat Costa. That's Whole Wheat Costa. You can catch me on iTunes and YouTube and Spotify. Dave?
You can find me over at 5 Minutes of Mystery. I'm talking about mystery men, and then sometimes I have discussions with Dave where I talk about other stuff. I talk about board games and video games and other little pop culture things. Sean?
Yeah, and so I did Groundhog Minute, where I talked about Groundhog Day 1 minute at a time with Dave Pallas, and I did Spinal Tap Minute. I've got 5 minutes of mime. I do lots of things. I do guest appearances. I was on the 5 Minutes of Mystery show, which I really enjoyed, and I think was probably the best episode of that show.
It's up there. It's neck and neck with Crystal.
I'm kidding. I did okay. I think it's worth the Crystal one. Yeah, was really good as well. So and there's.
Hey, who did the intro?
Oh yeah, who was the pilot episode? Who helped?
Who did that? Who did that pilot episode? That was really good.
So that's a great show. But you can find all my shows and guest appearances and everything if you go to catandshawn.org, and it's cat CAT, Sean SEAN. and A-N-D in the middle.org. So yeah, catandshawn.org. That links to all my podcast stuff. And, I don't know, just Google Robert Black and you'll find what he's up to.
Do not Google Robert Black. He's a Scottish
Just do a web
killer.
search for Robert Black and that'll tell you everything you need to know. And and then and then come back for minute 23.
Being on this podcast, in between recordings, I actually went to go buy more deadbolts for all my doors because Robert,
Yeah, Robert Black coming in. No, more minutes, Robert Black, no! Until next time, we can't wait to see you around the cardboard corner.
And then I could probably disarm all the traps. And then we could finish this maze. Who is with me?
That was Sean German and Dave Pallas from Groundhog Minute, along with James Costa of Whole Wheat Costa, taking on minute 22 of Dave Made a Maze. Forgot to put that in the script. They might never be back again. Next time on Dave Made a Minute, we've got Tierney Steele Callahan and Mark Carlucci of Return to Oz Minute taking on minute 23.
Thank you for listening to Dave Made a Minute. Intro dialogue snippets were taken from Dave Made a Maze, directed by Bill Watterson, written by Bill Watterson and Steve Sears, and produced by John Charles Meyer. Intro music is Diversion by The Equals, featured in the film Dave Made a Maze, and Life Cycle of a Match by Parvis Decree. Outro music is Leaving This Godforsaken Place and Her Presence is Strong Here by Parvis Decree. Dave Made a Minute is a production of Lemming Drop Studio and all other featured podcast producers. You can find more content at lemmingdrops.com. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Dave Made a Minute. If you like what you hear, throw us a rating and review on your podcatcher of choice, and check out all of the participants' other shows to spread the love around. Again, thank you for listening.
As long as we're all working together, this is going to be fine. It's going to be great.
I need you to notify the families of everyone who died here today.
Totally. Wait, what?